Recently, Don Lemon from CNN had an interview with the actor Terry Crews. During their discussion, Crews and Lemon went back and forth about Black Lives Matter, the organization, and the movement.
When you have the leaders of the Black Lives Movement who are now talking about, if we don't get our demands, we're going to burn it down. Other Black people who are talking about working with other whites and other races, they're being viewed as sellouts or called Uncle Toms. You start to understand that you are now, being controlled. You're not being treated as loved. You're actually being controlled. Someone wants to control the narrative.
Terry Crews rightfully spoke out about the fact that Black Lives Matter doesn't seem to pay much attention to black-on-black crime. Apparently, this triggered Lemon, who then went on to explain how Black Lives Matter began.
The Black Lives Matter movement was started because it was talking about police brutality. If you want an all Black Lives Matter movement that talks about gun violence in communities, including, Black communities, then start that movement with that name. But that's not what Black Lives Matter is about.
What Mr. Don Lemon doesn't seem to understand is that he doesn't even have the history correct on Black Lives Matter. The fact is that the organization began after the death of Trayvon Martin. Obviously, Martin was not killed by a police officer. Lemon then attempts to compare Black Lives Matter to an organization trying to cure cancer.
If someone started a movement that said, cancer matters, and then someone comes in and said, why aren't you talking about HIV? It's not the same thing. We're talking about cancer. So the Black Lives Matter movement is about police brutality and injustice in that manner, not about what's happening in Black neighborhoods.
The problem with this particular argument is that in the actual name of the organization, Black Lives Matter, you have the term Black Lives. Black lives have been taken during black-on-black crimes. They've been taken by the police, and in the cases of Trayvon Martin and Ahmaud Arbery, they've also been taken by other races. These all fall under the umbrella of that same term, Black Lives. But you can't compare HIV and cancer because they're two different diseases. It would only work as a comparison if the organization in question was about curing diseases in general and not about a specific disease. But again, the phrase Black Lives means Black lives. Here's an example of an argument that actually makes an apples-to-apples comparison using the actual terms being used. Check it out. If Black Lives Matter were like an organization to cure cancer, let's say that organization were called Cures for Cancers Matter. Now, if someone comes up to a member of Cures for Cancers Matter and says, hey, you guys should be trying to cure lung cancer too. At that point, the Cures for Cancers member would say, well, yeah, we do try to cure lung cancer because the name cancer in our organization explains that we are about curing all types of cancer, not just the one. It would be absolutely ridiculous for that organization to leave out lung cancer when the whole name suggests that they're about curing all cancer to begin with. This is the problem that Black Lives Matter has. Its name suggests that they are preserving all Black lives. However, their actions suggest that they're only concerned with the Black lives that are taken by whites. Or as Don Lemon suggested, they're only concerned with the lives taken by police, because police brutality and stuff. Now, what's the problem with all this? Why are people trying to deflect criticisms of the Black Lives Matter organization when those criticisms have a lot of validity? Not only that, but the actions of many who follow Black Lives Matter have become harmful to Black communities rather than helpful. Black-on-black crime has escalated in the days following all of the protests. Many innocent victims have been killed in the wake of all the defund the police rhetoric. These recent stories are heartbreaking. Small children gunned down senselessly while playing or going about their normal days. 7-year-old Natalia Wallace of Chicago was killed. 8-year-old Secoria Turner of Atlanta was killed. 8-year-old Royte DeMarco Giles of Alabama was killed. And 10 other children under 18 have died in Chicago since June 20th, according to the Chicago Sun-Times. But in this video, I'd like to speak about one particular child because his mother's testimony hit so hard when I heard it.
These people, they don't care. These guys that's out here shooting each other, they don't care who outside. Your mother, your father, your grandmother, your kids, babies, they don't care. They shot my baby in his head. He got shot in his head. It hurt so bad. It hurt so bad. I want them to hear me. It hurt. I hope they're going to watch this because it hurt so bad.
Devon Mcneil of Washington, D.C. Devon Mcneil was an 11-year-old football player who had won multiple awards for his athleticism. But besides being an award-winning football player and only 11 years old, he was highly loved by his family members. Of course, that should go without saying, but it seems to me that his parents were doing everything in their power to try and be sure that this kid had a bright future. They had previously moved him out of the same community where he met his untimely death. They thought that they could move him away from all the violence and crime. They had only returned in order to visit friends and family for a cookout.
It happened here on Cedar Street Southeast, a neighborhood Mcneil had moved her family away from because of the violence. She says she came back to organize the cookout as a peaceful community event on the 4th.
That cookout was an anti-violence cookout organized by Devon's mother. So it was at this anti-violence cookout that these individuals came and drove by to shoot up the place. It also should be mentioned that his family was highly involved in trying to prevent inner-city violence. Devon's mother, Crystal Mcneil, is a violence interrupter. Many of you have seen the documentary called The Interrupters, where people in Chicago try and prevent gang members from getting into violent altercations. These interrupters often put their own lives on the line to try and keep the crime out of the community. So his mother is someone who has dedicated her life to changing the culture of crime and violence in these communities, something that should be applauded. But Devon's mother wasn't the only person who was working to eliminate crime and violence in D.C. Devon's grandfather, John Ayala, started the first D.C. area chapter of the Guardian Angels in 1989. The Guardian Angels is a crime prevention safety patrol unit that tries to educate the community while making citizens arrests and trying to prevent crimes as best as they can without being armed.
Everybody just saying they're just tired of the shootings in the community. Everybody's running around here thinking they're Uzi-toting, dope-sucking, psychopathic killing machines, and they're just destroying lives.
What you see when you hear the family of this young child speak is that they are not in agreement with the Black Lives Matter idea of defunding the police.
But we're protesting for months, for weeks, saying Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, it seems like only when a police officer shoot a black person. What about all the black-on-black crime that's happening in the community?
Devon's mother is a violence interrupter here in the district, and I asked her what she thinks needs to happen to stop another family from going through this, because we know this is not the first child to be killed in this way in the district. She says she wants to see more officers on the street and that she does not support any efforts to eliminate police.
It seems to me that many of the people who espouse this idea of defunding the police or cutting funds to the police do not live in the communities where violence is a larger problem. I believe that the majority of the people speaking out for Black Lives Matter are middle and upper class blacks who live in relatively safe communities where they don't have to worry about seeing police officers on a day-to-day basis because the crime rates are low. But in almost every case, like the Devon Mcneil case and others where children are killed, you can hear parents, friends, family members stating that they would like more police in the communities where these things are having happened.
These families say there has to be change, but they need help.
But if we step up together as a community with the police department, it's going to make a change because they're going to see us working together. You don't see that all the time.
She says it's time to start talking if you know something. Time to be there for kids in the community.
Time to put the guns down.
It changed one child at a time, one teenager at a time, one adult at a time.
So Terry Crews was 100% correct in asking why isn't Black Lives Matter speaking out loudly about black on black crime if it also leads to the loss of innocent black lives like these children. Black Lives Matter as an organization with that name absolutely should be speaking out against black on black crime unless they plan to change their name to Black Lives Matter, but only when whites take them. And make no mistake about it, the mainstream media and politicians will always find a way to make the best of a horrendous situation, even if they were the ones who helped create that bad situation. When it comes to escalation of black on black crime following the protests, the media and politicians have been enablers, if not instigators of these problems. But no worries. They're going to find a way to make this situation useful to them as well. As I've seen in all these cases where young children were shot, the media has decided to use the phrase gun violence. I'm willing to bet that there will be a push to eliminate some of the legal guns in the near future. They will hope that blacks will get on board with the anti-gun laws. It'll be another ploy to try and elect Democratic politicians who push these anti-gun laws. Thankfully, I don't think many black people will go for it, especially if they live in the kinds of communities that have a violence problem. The only issue is that most of these cities already have harsh gun laws that restrict them from having guns anyway. But do you think you're going to be able to get the gun-toting black folks in Georgia to give up their AR-15s? I seriously doubt that will happen, but it probably won't hurt to try now, will it? I just hope that people will start to try backing away from the racism is everywhere narrative and start focusing on the things that really are causing problems within black communities. Of course, if you're going to do that, you're then going to have to consider culture. I'm She Brown. Please subscribe, share, comment, and like. And I'm out.
No more Yaza Baza.